chemistry, and he has a master's from Adelphi in education, and then he has a PhD in chemistry also from CUNY Graduate School in Brooklyn, and he's currently a professor at Wagner. And so he's here today to talk to us about. And is this the title you had on, or is this a different title? Oh, okay.
This is pretty much the title.
Okay. And so he's here to talk to us about chemistry. Is the best way I'll say, because I don't just give, even if the title is up there, I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. So he has handouts. If you didn't get one again, please let me know. I'll bring it up. Okay. Yes, you did. Okay, you need one. Okay, great. So everyone, let's welcome Dr. Craig.
I'll expand a bit. My training is actually in quantum chemistry, and I taught middle school and high school science because I can teach middle school, high school, and college. And I taught at John Jay for a year. I taught at Lehman College for a year, and then I had a fabulous opportunity. 3 professors were on sabbatical. And I was really doing very well as a lab instructor, so I became a full-time professor at the College of Staten Island. And then I went to Adelphi University and some other colleges, and then I went to Wagner College, which I really had some really powerful experiences. And I always tell a story. I'm not famous, but my father was famous. My father was a famous fighter pilot called the Tuskegee Airmen. So I was allowed a lot of things because he was, then he became a criminal attorney and was elected to be a judge, so that allowed me a lot of opportunities to get education. And what happened was, while I was at the College of Staten Island, this is a molecular dynamics model of argon, usually called a Verlet algorithm. And what this Verlet algorithm does is it kind of calculates where an atom is going to be next in space. So I want to talk to you today about 3 gentlemen I met at the College of Staten Island. One's name was Dr. Raja, who is a very, very nice man. He worked at College of Staten Island. He studied curcumin. Another gentleman I met was Arvind Jusufi, and he has a doctorate from Princeton. And when I met him, he did not know anything that I knew, and I didn't know anything that he knew. But we did know a few things that we had in common. So he kind of inspired me to learn something called GROMACS, which is what I want to talk to you about today, because what happened was I actually went on to install GROMACS on a i3 processor in a Linux system, and bioinformatics is such an exciting field to be in. Anybody with a bachelor's in bio and some computer science training could go on, and anybody could do bioinformatics. A lot of times scientists do act like big children. They say, well, you can't touch my NMR, or you can't touch my HPLC, or you can't touch my AA. You know, what? Everybody has access to a laptop. So, I mean, once I did click with this man, and he's a nice person. Also, when he began to explain to me what he did, I became very interested in. And this is my first installation of GROMACS, which I was very proud of, which is I did in 2016. It took me about 2 weeks. I did it on a Hewlett-Packard i3 processor, and what I did was, in order to get the Linux system up, I got a flash drive, a thumb drive. I made a virtual Unix system. Then I got the correct version of the GROMACS. So this is what I want to talk to you about today. And one other person that I cannot leave out is Dr. Poget, who him and Dr. Jusufi were kind of like complemented each other, and so did Dr. Raja, like the three together. And Dr. Poget is a very tall British man, and he was approachable. This guy was really nice, and he has a doctorate from Cambridge, and he has 2 kids. And he observed me a lot while I was doing the organic labs and teaching at College of Staten Island. And he did something called 3D NMR proteins. And he studied something called spider toxins. So spider toxins, this also can maybe simulate something like a cancer medication, which is what I want to introduce you to now. So this is the talk. I'll try to. So, of great interest, I'll be honest with you, I'm 52, 53. So a lot of times my friends and family relatives mostly will have maybe some form of diabetes or mild diabetes, or sadly enough, they might even have cancer. Both my parents had cancer. So what this protein does is it appears in high concentrations in cancerous cells. And what it does is, if it sees a foreign chemotherapy molecule, it'll pump it out, which is no good, because I want my chemotherapy molecule inside what we call bioavailability. So it makes cells pump out, it'll actually pump out the chemotherapy drug, which is what we don't want. Okay, so one type of mechanism, what Dr. Poget studied, he studied spider toxins. Well, why does this man study spider toxins? I'm an electrical engineer. Well, it can also simulate something when you take a toxin, it sends your nervous system into shock, and also lipid bilayers, which is what these two gentlemen had studied. So this is like super popular in the bioinformatics realm. Oh no. I have it here. Okay, so I just want to play. It's only I picked videos which are very short. It's only 46 seconds. Where'd it go? It's so short it disappeared. Okay, thanks. Okay, so PGP pushes the drug through the cell membrane. These silver balls that you're going to see prevent chemotherapy medications from entering inside of the cell. So let's take a look at something. And these images might be drawn as something you use something called PyMold, which you can download on your desktop. And with these silver balls are actually pumping out. It says, oh, well, this thing is foreign. This thing is like a wooden splinter. You know how your body reacts to a splinter. So it's actually pumping out the splinter. Wait. So, and if this protein is a computer-generated model, and if this protein appears more in cancer cells, that's like something we absolutely do not want, because we want the chemo to attack. Everybody grab one of these. Everybody grab one of these. Everybody grab one. So a lot of times, along with cancer, the cancer medication itself, we're going to want something to make sure the cancer medication is not pumped out. So you're going to take this complementary cocktail, okay, with the drug. Okay. Another thing, or something else that's very popular. Okay, why is this bad? Of course, cancer. Spider toxins with Dr. Poget studies. Okay. My sister, she has my age. She has 5 kids, 5 beautiful kids. She also suffers from mild cases of diabetes type 2, which is something your aunt, your uncle might have. So, again, I am not a biologist, but I went through a lot of trouble to try to learn some biology. So, Dr. McClary taught me.
Yeah, that's in the corner. You want to let the screen up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the up arrow. Yeah.
Up arrow. Okay. Okay, I just learned this from Dr. McClary too. Okay, so if I have food and I have the small intestine, and this miracle protein called GLP-1, okay, there is an inhibitor to make things, keep things at some type of, I guess, homeostasis, a DPP4 enzyme. If I have a way of blocking this with something called the DPP4 inhibitor, this protein stimulates secretion of insulin. So insulin goes up. It also suppresses glycogen. And the inhibitors increases something called incretins. And in short, what all this does is that it locks my stomach and doesn't let my stomach let anything out. And if I don't let my stomach empty, if I can stop my stomach, I stop glucose. This is a good. I'm not a biologist, okay? So I spent time trying to learn some biology. So just to say again, food, intestines, GLP-1. This enzyme controls this enzyme, but if I inhibit it, insulin goes up. So this is something called metanormin. I think my sister takes this metanormin, and you also get a cocktail. So if the mechanism of DPP4 inhibitors to increase incretin levels, which inhibit glucagon release, which in turn increase insulin secretion, which decreases gastric emptying. I call it, so your stomach doesn't empty, okay? Which is what my sister wants. So this is some mechanism of it. This is what I want you to do on your laptop. This is what I want you to do on your laptop. I see an i7 core. I'm going to get a flash drive. I'm going to get a thumb drive. Spend $12, get a thumb drive. After I get a thumb drive, I'm going to go download, put Unix system, see what version I can put on that, 12.04. Turn that laptop into a Linux workstation. Once I have a Linux workstation and internet interface, what can I do? It took me 2 weeks. I installed something called GROMACS, which is what Armin Giuseppe. It took me 2 weeks. I just worked hard at it. I went to this PYMOL site to look at how to put in proteins. Every place I went, I went to Queens College, said, Rob, you can't have a Linux account. I went to Lehman College, no, Rob, we can't give you a Unix account. No, you don't have a clearance for that. No. So I got a laptop, made a virtual core. This is something called, this is the force fields. When we use GROMACS, what it does is it grabs proteins with a force field. So I want to tell you about something that only took me 2 weeks to set up. That if you want to start doing research with, what happens is that we have something called the protein database. So let's say protein database, and you want to pick a protein. Another movie star protein is bovine pancreatic trypsin inhibitor. Again, the quantum physicist, what this is a anticoagulant, which is there's some type of system, say with famous doctor, cardiologist, Dr. Welby, going to do cardiac surgery. I have some type of team with me to make sure your blood, I can control the patient's blood from coagulating. So this mechanism is also studied. So I was going to talk to you about this today, but I want to talk to you about installing GROMACS, which I had a lot of fun doing, that if you left this room right now, you can go home and start doing. So GROMACS can be installed on a Core i5 processor, okay? And what do you have to do? It's a series of programs, much like that movie, The Matrix, where you have the Oracle and so you have all these programs. All these programs do different things. So where does this image come from? What is this image? Where does this image come from? Well, this image is made by, the thing about it is that we can't really see proteins, and proteins are very small. So we can get very, very accurate. The publication you have discusses bovine pancreatic trypsin inhibitor, which is the movie star protein, because we got very, very good X-ray diffraction images for this protein. You grab this protein, and you also do something called 3D NMR, which Dr. Poget is an expert at. But I don't look at it like, I use a force field, a different type of force field, something called AMBER and CHARM. These force fields developed at Harvard University. And if you look at this one, the page where you see the bunch of numbers, well, we've all had my favorite organic chemistry. We've all had my favorite organic chemistry, right? So you all know proton NMR. You're responsible for that. All go one, right? So imagine lysine. So look at some lysine system, okay? Lysine system. Proteins have these carbons, hydrogens, and nitrogens, right? So what Dr. Poget described was a sequential walk, that we can walk across the backbone of proteins and transfer magnetization. A lot of times you look at the NMR experiment, and the NMR experiment is just a proton or carbon. Well, you can do something called heterosingular nuclear quantum and mix the proton and carbon spectrum. If I have a 2D spectrum, I can bring the spectrum up and make it 3D by using another atom. What you're looking at is a 3D NMR spectrum. In one dimension is proton, ethanol, proton, right? Then another dimension I have carbon. But now it's flat. It's flat. If I have nitrogen, I could bring it out, much like a 3D printer, and I can make a 3D image of a protein. What I found fascinating about GROMACS is that now GROMACS is going to take the X-ray diffraction and 3D image on your simple i5 core Hewlett-Packard, and it's going to make it into a computer program, much like putting me inside of a supercomputer. Now I'm inside of a supercomputer, and now you're looking at all my hydrogen, carbon, and nitrogen bonds, and now you're able to move me and unfold me and watch me unfold. If I could do that, I might be able to help my sister out when she's taking a diabetic medication. Or I could look at spider toxins by Dr. Poget. Or maybe I can stop the P glycoprotein from stopping the chemotherapy from entering cells. And these are just some proteins. Or I can make a better anticoagulant. So, like the Matrix movie, the Oracle, there's all these type of programs. And let me get to the talk itself. So, molecular dynamics is a simulation method. It's a simulation. So what I'm going to do is, once I've taken me and putting me inside of a supercomputer, and now I'm inside a supercomputer, and I put a force field around me, I can now move me inside and out. And if we looked at, oh, my handouts. I need to borrow handouts. Okay. So I'll take you through a triple resonance sequential walk, which is this page. If I grab this page. Has anyone ever seen 3D NMR? No? Okay. Seminar is something you have to go to, and I was always never crazy about seminar. But you have to go to seminar. And when I did not have to go to seminar anymore, I missed it. So I tried to give you handouts. I saw handouts I like to teach. I want you to have a good time. So let's flip the page. You flip the page, and you see, and I tried to circle for you. I circled for you to the left. It says CAB, and then it has this slab, and it has some numbers for C. It says 824, and I checked the 824, and then for nitrogen it has 1171, and I underlined the 1171. So let's all go to the first slab. 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 So the first slab has an 824 and a 117. Here. I can try it. You know what I can try to do? NMR. Okay, so look, this, you should have a slab. You'll have a slab like this. And a lot of times we say, well, what is this? The proton experiment. This is the proton experiment. Or this is the carbon experiment. Well, there are a lot of different types of NMR experiments. There's TROSY, there's COSY, there's a soup of NMR experiments that if I combine them, I can walk and transfer magnetization from the right protons, carbon 13, carbon 1, nitrogen 15. You can use phosphorus 31 too. Once I'm tracing this backbone, as you can see, the backbone is in hydrogen and nitrogen. And if I use carbon, I'm in hydrogen and nitrogen. If I use carbon, I bring it up and I make it 3D. I make the image 3D. I send it to the supercomputer. Or if I don't have access to my supercomputer, no one wants me to let me use their Cray 6E, I do have my laptop. And now I have a 3D image inside GROMACS, and I can study protein folding with the price it costs for a laptop. Okay, so a protein is a complex molecule, and you guys know proteins, right? Because you're biologists, correct? So you guys know alpha, helix, beta sheets, right? And this is the trypsin inhibitor, the anticoagulant, the movie star protein, that they have excellent X-ray imaging for. So what scientists do is they take the initial coordinates, they minimize the structure, they align velocities, they heat it, because in our human bodies we have certain pressures and temperatures. What's very important is the kinetic energy of the system. Once we have the kinetic energy of the system, we use something called the Verlet algorithm. And the Verlet algorithm is also called a leapfrog algorithm, meaning that I don't know where this gentleman is going to be in 20 minutes, but more likely he might be at the door, because the seminar is going to be over at 6:15. I can use the fact that I know where he might be at based on what bonds he has available to him. So if I have on the last page, this is the coordinates for lysine. This is the coordinates for lysine inside of GROMACS. What GROMACS has now done is it has now taken the protein from the database and given it its 3D NMR, meaning it's assigned a 3D space for each hydrogen. If you look at the chart, it says, the first thing it says is lysine, nitrogen 1. And it says lysine, hydrogen 1. Lysine, hydrogen 2. Lysine, hydrogen 3. Lysine C alpha. Lysine H alpha. I now have a protein inside my laptop, which I can rearrange. I can do production dynamics. I can look where it's going to be in a certain amount of time. Here's a simulation of the trypsin inhibitor. And again, this is what GROMACS does. Atomic coordinates, general topology. These force fields are just that, a topology. A topology meaning they look down and tell me what's nitrogen, what's hydrogen, what's carbon. I salvate it because some systems I use the Oracle Matrix program, PDB to GMX. I salvate it because proteins, the thing is we're looking at two different phases. Two phases. I'm in two phases. I'm in this bones, skin, and blood, hopefully in hair phase, and I'm inside of a room with air. So a protein exists, is just that, as a bunch of amino acids inside of water. Two phases. Two phases. In the publication you have, it discusses, this movie star publication discusses what we call some vocabulary that we use in protein folding is the radius of gyration. The radius of gyration tells me how compact, how I can spin, how compact I am. The accessible faces, proteins do this. They open, close, they have different, they move around. Their faces move around. Sometimes they're more accessible than other times. Their surfaces. So in the last part of the paper, it talks about there are class 1, class 2 type border, the binding energy, the delta G. What surfaces? Proteins, if I let a protein to fold, it might take, there's something called Levin's paradox. It might take over, I think 10 to the 24 years for it to fold. So proteins don't just have some way of folding, meaning you can't, meaning it's defined somehow. We also need to add ions. When we did Chem 1, you had the mass balance and charge balance. Remember analytical chemistry? Mass balance to charge balance. Remember? Energy minimization. We had an equilibrium system with all of these programs. A production MV run. We need the energy, and we need something called the RSMD, which is the root means square deviation from the X-ray diffraction. If my simulation, when I put the protein inside the computer, if it doesn't match my 3D NMR and my X-ray diffraction, my simulation is going to be off. So I need what goes in my computer to match what we call the X-ray diffraction data and the 3D NMR data. Once I do that, the protein might be vibrating and moving. I get its kinetic energy. Once I get its kinetic energy, I can get its velocity, where it's going to be, where it's going to be, where it's going to be. And I use something called the Verlet algorithm. This is some simulation. Atomic coordinates, generate the topology, the PDB2 GMX. I solvate it. I put some water on it. I'm in two phases, me and the air. I add ions, charge balance, mass balance, energy minimization. The RMSD tells me I'm very, very close to my X-ray diffraction data. If I'm close to my X-ray diffraction data, I can unfold and refold this protein. Where atom 1 is going to be based on the velocity. Where atom 2 is going to be based on the velocity. This leapfrog method. This is where it's done. I guess that's why Dr. Jusufi did it. And this is what I did on my i3 core. I had this interface. There's a lot of things in other things in learning systems if you want to play games or look at other chemistry things. And this is a flow chart, what you do. Some software, you actually have to build it. So I actually had to build it, so I didn't know what I was doing. I do know C++, some Fortran, what you take in college, you know. But I had to learn fast Fourier transform. I had to learn tar, grabbing, you know, untarring data, calling it, and compiling it. This is something called PyMOL, which it's very beautiful computer art, where you can look at the waters and remove the waters. A lot of times you get the X-ray data, and you have to generate its shape. Sometimes you can generate a shape before water goes around. You got to solvate the system. Remember I said I'm human bones and flesh, and I'm standing here in the air. So the protein is a protein, amino acid standing in water. So I solvate it, charge balance, mass balance.